Emre's childhood and youth were spent in the depths of a calm and observant nature. Although he was not completely introverted, he did not feel comfortable in social circles. However, there was a shyness in his relationships with the opposite sex. Combined with the inexperience of his age, this meant he always kept a distance from girls. His father would spend his days playing love and breakup songs in the music-filled rooms of their house. These songs from his father's collection of old records would etch each melody into Emre's mind. Watching his father's eyes occasionally fill with tears while listening to these emotional songs taught Emre that love was filled with both beauties and pains. This led him to idealize love and to construct perfect romances in his mind rather than engaging in real relationships. During his adolescence, Emre silently admired the girls in his class, but lacked the courage to speak to them. Every rejection made him internalize these platonic loves even more. Love songs became the companions of rejected feelings. Each note felt like a scar echoing in his heart. Nights spent with these songs further fueled the love in his heart, but prevented him from taking any real steps in the real world. By the time he graduated from high school, Emre had a very limited circle of friends. He mostly spent time with his male friends and limited his interactions with girls to those within the classroom. Even during his university years, this situation did not change much. He preferred to occupy himself with academic achievements and hobbies. Books, video games, and watching movies were his best sources of escape and consolation. However, these could not fully soothe his inner loneliness. This introverted and music-filled world continued into Emre's young adult years. When he started working, his relationships with colleagues were generally limited to work. Emre, who struggled to express himself emotionally, continued to live a step away from the real world, alone with his platonic feelings and romantic ideals. Yet, there was always a glimmer of hope inside him. Perhaps one day, this story that began with music would end with true love. Emre's 29th birthday was not much different from previous years. Before heading to work in the morning, he received only a few celebration messages, mostly from his family and close friends. His day at work continued with the usual routine. He walked among the machines at the factory, performing checks and adjustments. However, that evening when he returned home, he decided to download a new online MOBA game on a friend's recommendation. This simple decision would unexpectedly turn his life around. The dynamic and competitive nature of the game captured Emery's interest. Within a few weeks, he had mastered the strategic aspects of the game and improved his skills. However, the real change began when he met a player in the game who went by the name Sun. Sun lived in another city, and they were playing on the same team. In-game chats quickly evolved into friendly dialogues, and both admired each other's playing style. Over time, they began to talk outside of the game as well. Sun showed Emre a kind of attention and care that made him feel special. For Emre, this was both a new and confusing experience. For the first time in his life, a woman was treating him with such closeness and interest. Sun's warmth and sincerity were illuminating his world. For several months, they talked on the phone for hours every night. Sun shared her life stories, fears, hopes, and dreams with Emre. Emre felt more open than ever before. He shared his life, his past, and the emotional melodies of his inner world with Sun. During this time, Emre realized that Sun was not just a gaming partner, but meant much more to him. Sun's interest and love began to change Emre. Struggling with future anxieties as a factory worker, Emre started to look forward to the future with hope, thanks to Sun. Her presence eased his fears and helped him develop a more positive attitude towards life. For the first time, Emre was taking control of his life and taking steps to capture true happiness. This was a new beginning for him, and soon was the most crucial part of this journey. Sun and Emre's relationship deepened with each passing day. Their phone calls turned into long night conversations. During these talks, they both broke down their walls, sharing their deepest secrets and fears. In one of these intimate moments, Sun revealed her greatest fear to Emre, being betrayed by the man she loved, her future husband. Sun explained the origin of her fear. Her father had repeatedly cheated on her mother, and Sun had witnessed this, leaving deep scars in her mind. Her mother's pains and disappointments had shaped Sun's perspective on love. She believed that love should be built on loyalty and trust. This confession had a profound impact on Emre. The fact that Sun still believed in love despite her painful experiences made her even more precious in his eyes. Emre saw this night as a turning point. Sun's vulnerability and trust in him shaped a resolution in his heart. He thought to himself, "The person I'm going to marry is her." Sun's revelation helped Emre confront his own past and see more clearly the fundamental values he sought in relationships. Love and fidelity were no longer just themes of romantic songs for Emre, but values he needed to live by in real life. In the following days, Emre began to express his feelings for Sun more openly. Sun's sincerity and emotional openness enabled him to respond in kind. Two souls, brought together by the strange twist of fate through an online game, were now being driven towards the most important decision of their lives by their deep connection and love. Emre was ready to unite his life with Sun's, to build a future with her. This decision would turn the emotional melodies that once lived only in his inner world into a real love song. Emre was not used to the excessive attention and love that Sun showed him. For the first time in his life, he felt that someone valued him so much, loved him so deeply. While Sun made every effort to make Emre feel cherished, he was delighted by this, yet he also felt pampered. Although this constant attention and love seemed to boost Emre's confidence, it actually created internal conflicts. He began to see himself as someone who did not deserve this love. This was a feeling developing subconsciously of him not liking himself enough. Even though there was nothing wrong with Sun, Emre felt unworthy of being loved. Deep down, people often tend to run away from a love and attention they have never experienced before because they think they do not deserve it. This was what happened to Emre. The excessive love and attention drove him to flee. During this period, there was also a shaking development in Emre's work life. He was laid off and became unemployed. It took him 2 months to find a new job, and during this time, his pessimistic personality began to conjure up worst-case scenarios. The gratitude and love he felt for Sun were overshadowed by the thought that he could not offer her a good enough future because he was unemployed. Despite Sun's assurances that she had no material expectations and would support him regardless, Emre expressed his desire to break up and could not back down from this decision. After hanging up the phone, he felt a deep pain inside and blamed himself. "You ruined everything." Sun struggled to accept Emre's decision to break up. During the days apart from Emre, she realized she couldn't forget him and decided to reach out again. She sent Emre a message expressing that she loved him in every way and wanted to be by his side under any circumstances. This message touched Emre's heart. Sun's effort and loyalty showed him the deep commitment and understanding he sought in a relationship. Emre deeply felt Sun's understanding and loyalty, and he realized the mistake he had made. They reconciled. For the first time in his life, Emre deeply felt that a woman did not want to lose him. Emre stopped questioning Sun's love and understood the value of her affection. This incident taught Emre his own worth and significance in a relationship. Sun's loyalty and love gave him new hope and confidence for the future. Together, they were determined to face the challenges life brought. Emre and Sun's relationship was no longer confined to the digital world. The closeness they had maintained through phone calls and video chats was finally going to be crowned with a face-to-face meeting. Emre was eagerly awaiting the day he would truly meet Sun for the first time. Sun was a full 900 kilometers away, and Emre had bought a bus ticket for this special moment. After a long and thoughtful journey, the day of the meeting arrived, and his excitement was at its peak. When he arrived at the bus station, Sun was there. As soon as he got off the bus, Sun was waiting to greet him. Sun had dressed in her finest clothes and had her hair done at the salon for this special day. When Emre saw her in person for the first time, he found her much more beautiful than her image on the phone. She truly looked like a princess. In astonishment, Emre asked with a laugh, "Is that really you?" Sun's sweet smile and the loving look in her eyes became a memory that Emre would never forget. To make their first meeting even more special, they went to a restaurant. Sun could not take her eyes off Emre's. She looked at him with such love that Emre struggled to describe the feeling. It was an unforgettable experience for him. For the first time in his life, he was the focus of such attention and love. Sun's gaze made him feel like the strongest man in the world. Throughout the meal, Sun never let go of Emre's hand, constantly hugging him and trying to show her love through physical closeness. This was one of the most beautiful and comforting days of Emre's life. Sun's presence deeply soothed him, taking away the fatigue of the long journey. The day passed as if in a dream. Every moment, every touch, every look was utterly magical. With this meeting, the couple turned a new page in their relationship, moving beyond the digital world. Emre was strengthened by Sun's love, while Sun continued to show her commitment to him at every opportunity. This deep love and understanding further solidified their union. This special day would remain an unforgettable memory for both of them, as it was not just a meeting, but also the beginning of two hearts binding tightly together. After spending that unforgettable day together, Emre and Sun parted ways, returning to their own cities. However, this brief meeting had strengthened their bond even more, making them feel closer throughout their passionate long-distance relationship. Communicating daily over days, weeks, and months, the couple started considering a serious step like marriage. Despite the challenges of a long-distance relationship, their love for each other kept them going. However, the distance sometimes exhausted them unknowingly, and not being able to see each other whenever they wanted saddened them both. Having grown up with financial difficulties, Imre had faced many economic challenges throughout his life. Now, as he thought about building a future with Sun, these financial concerns began to take over his mind and spirit again. He started thinking about how he could achieve economic prosperity to provide a worthy life for the woman he loved without causing her any financial trouble. With this goal in mind, he began reading many personal development books and doing research on achieving wealth and success. In particular, a book that talked about writing down the things he dreamed of achieving in a notebook caught Emre's interest. This method suggested writing down his desires in the notebook every day with faith until they materialized. Emre started applying this new method he discovered and sometimes missed, playing games with Sun during this process. In fact, Emre had not been so intensely focused on such things before Sun came into his life. However, the desire to take responsibility for her life and make her happy drove Emre to conduct these researches and strive to provide a wealthy and prosperous life. He was acting not just thinking about his own future, but the shared future they would build together. This process represented the biggest transformation in Emre's life, because he was now not only striving for himself, but also for the person he loved, chasing the dream of offering her a beautiful life. This new sense of responsibility matured Emre further, adding a different depth to their relationship. Soon's presence not only added meaning to his life, but also inspired him on his personal development journey. Although they faced challenges, their commitment to each other was strong enough to overcome any obstacle during this process. Emre had become so immersed in his personal development and future dreams that he lost track of time. He had been so engrossed in books and writings that he hadn't called Sun for 2 days. During this time, Sun hadn't called him either. For Emre, this was not usual in their relationship, but because they had been together for a long time, he had acted with a casualness not typical of a couple who had just met, without any doubts. However, these 2 days, though short for a relationship, became a turning point for Emre. On the night of the second day, longing to hear Sun's voice, Emre sat by the phone. With a zest he hadn't felt in a long time, he dialed her number and waited to hear her voice. "Honey, how are you? I haven't called you for 2 days, and since you didn't call either, I got overly caught up in my work. How are you? You must be mad at me," he asked. Sun's voice was cold and distant. "Why haven't you called for 2 days? Didn't you wonder?" asked Sun. Emre admitted she was right. Maybe he should have called, and to make amends, he suggested meeting up over the weekend. In fact, Sun hadn't felt curious enough to call during these 2 days either. Emre hadn't seen this as a problem due to the busyness of his mind and work. However, Sun's response instantly chilled Emre's heart. "You haven't called in 2 days. Don't call anymore. I don't want to talk or see you anymore." Faced with these harsh words on the other end of the phone, Emre was at a loss for words. When the phone hung up, he felt as if he had been struck. He had never thought that not talking for 2 days could create a problem big enough to end their relationship. That night, Emre couldn't stop thinking about why Sun had reacted that way. Unable to sleep until morning, he tried to understand what had happened. He had never encountered such a reaction from Sun since the day he met her. What had changed that she now wanted to break up? The books he read, the dreams he wrote in his notebook, the hopes for the future had suddenly lost their meaning. He had built his life entirely on making Sun happy. He couldn't even imagine a dream without her. He had built all his dreams around her. How was he to accept this situation overnight? These thoughts deeply affected Emre, prompting a new direction in his life. A life without Sun was something he had never considered before. That night, he embarked on a journey that was not only physical, but also emotional and exhausting. It was a turning point in Emre's life. He was caught between love, the fear of loss, and redefining himself. This process represented not just the end of a relationship for him, but also a personal awakening. Now he faced the task of accepting a future without Sun and learning how to cope with this new reality. Emre had not gotten over the shock of Sun's sudden decision to break up. The first night passed sleeplessly and restlessly. After the decision, he tried to find a solution within himself, aiming to stay calm. "Maybe she's just angry. We'll talk and resolve it when she calms down," he thought. There had to be a logical explanation. He didn't want to believe that everything could end so easily. Days passed quickly, and after a week, 10 days, there was still no response from Sun. During this time, Emre tried to understand why Sun had made such a decision. His mind was constantly filled with questions. He struggled with thoughts like why, what for, could there be someone else? He knew Sun's greatest fear was being cheated on. Therefore, he didn't even want to consider the possibility that she might be with someone else. However, this thought consumed him more each day. Finally, Emre forced himself to sit down at the computer where they used to play their game. He decided to check Sun's account and saw that she was now playing the same games with someone else that she used to play day and night with him. At that moment, everything clicked into place. Everything Sun had told him started to replay in his mind like a film strip. Sun had found someone better than him and had continued seeing Emre until she was sure about the other person. Even when he felt inadequate, Sun had told him she would love him unconditionally and wanted to be by his side. That was a moment of painful realization for Emre. He recognized that Sun's reason for not leaving him was her loneliness at that time. Even when Emre wanted to break up, Sun didn't leave him simply because she had no other options. This realization deeply wounded Emre. Understanding that the reasons he found to love her were actually based on a lie was an unbearable pain. The love he felt for Sun, her responses, and what they shared now seemed empty and meaningless. Accepting this truth was not just the end of a relationship for Emre, but also a moment of confronting his own self. Healing the wounds in his heart, rebuilding his shattered dreams, and regaining his trust would be a long and arduous journey. Emre had now encountered a pain he had never known before. He had learned how love could present itself in unexpected ways. Dear viewers, the story I shared with you today covers only a part of Emre and Sun's emotional journey. Are you curious about what happens next? Because we're not done yet. In the second part, I'll soon share on my channel how Emre overcame this challenging period and how he continued his life. Inspired by this story, I would really love for you to share your similar experiences and feelings in the comments section. Have you ever experienced something like this? Or if you were in Emre's place, what would you have done? Remember, each of us is writing our own story in life, and sometimes, by sharing these stories, we can illuminate the paths of others. I'm eagerly waiting for your comments. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also turn on the notification bell to not miss the next video. I wish you all days filled with health and happiness. See you in our next video. Goodbye.